what we is. Sometimes you gotta stay. Welcome to my house, baby. Take control now. We can't even slow down. We don't have to go out. Welcome to my house. Play that music too loud. Show me what you do now. We don't have to go out. Welcome to my house.
We have a very special guest with us on this episode. His name is Daryl Rice. He's from Charlotte, North Carolina. And we're going to allow him to introduce himself and tell you about his credentials. Mr. Daryl Rice, are you with us tonight?
Yes, sir, I am here.
Please share with the audience what makes you an authority on crime prevention and education.
Okay. My name is Daryl E. Rice, and as Brother Charles told you, I reside in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm a partner with the company we have here. It's called Urban Thoughts. We are an educational consulting firm. We can be reached at urbanthoughts.com. We work with the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department with their youth, and these youth have either, committed some type of crime, either they've taken guns to school, got caught selling drugs, committed theft, things of that nature. And we provide the classes for these young individuals to come through and rehabilitate themselves so that they can enter back into school and expunge their records. I've been working with the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department for about 10 years, so I've very well vested in our community and changing the lives of these young people.
That's fantastic. It's very similar to our mission here in Indianapolis. Did you got a chance to look at Crime Prevention and Education video part 1, that's correct?
Yes.
Okay, now that video was based on research and statistics that we've gathered over the last 20 years. Would you mind mentioning some of the things that we shared in that video and go ahead and roll into how it applies to your program there in Charlotte?
Well, some of the things that I think that are relevant are, speaking from an overall perspective, is just how we try to, what is called diversion, to try to prevent things from happening. And that labeling is called diversion here in Charlotte. So we offer a diversion for these young people not to participate in crime latent things. So that diversion includes information in terms of teaching them how to deal with conflict, which lines up with what you're talking about, how to deal with conflict, and how to understand how to get out of a situation that could be a criminal-involved situation that could lead to more things for them, possibly being in prison, locked up for some time, suspended from school, and things of that nature.
Yes, I'm glad you used the word diversion because that is a word used in the Department of Corrections all over this country. Please share with us some of your credentials that makes you a quote-unquote go-to person. Because, see, we write our own programs and we facilitate them as well. And we noticed that a lot of faith-based, a lot of churches, a lot of church leaders have their own crime intervention, crime prevention, and diversion programs. But a lot of them don't have a lot of, should I say, true diversion and true intervention. We work with several faith-based organizations, and a lot of these pastors, they just say, we ask, what's your program? Can we look at your program outline? And they say, it's Jesus. Now, we're not getting off the subject, but, Department of Corrections Department of Education and the funders, the foundations who fund these intervention programs, they want to see outcomes and they want to see measurable outcomes. So, do you do any faith-based work with churches? I guess that's a two-part question. Tell us about your credentials as well as is there a faith-based side to your program? Thank you.
Well, to answer that question, no. There isn't a faith-based connection with what we do. Not at all. And in terms of my credentials, I am educated from Indiana University, and I have 3 degrees: English, African American Studies, and education. So, with that particular round of education, it enabled me to get involved and create Urban Thoughts with my business partner, and to work with the police department hand in hand for 10 years gives me the foundation to speak on this and to continue to be a force in our community and work with the young people to change their lives, as we've done over the past 10 years.
Absolutely. Now, is there anything that you would just like to share with us off the top of your head without me asking any questions about what you all do? Is there something you want to share, like some of the latest program or some incidents or some funding that you know about, some grants you know about, or just anything in your capacity that you want to share with our listeners today?
Okay. I think more importantly, to give you some factors that have helped us to change the lives of these young people. I think that's an important factor to be said. And one of the 4 things that we use in terms of trying to get them to understand conflict resolution, we approach it from a perspective of, we have 4 things that are our basis of them to understand how to get out of conflict and how to move out of a situation. And that is getting in touch with your feelings, and where that is understanding your feelings and thoughts and effectively communicating with others. Listening skills is another big one. That's being a good listener and knowing that is important to be able to express yourself as it is to be able to listen to others. Assertive communication is another one that we key in on, communicating with your feelings and being clear in what you want to say and understanding others. And that is a vital aspect of conflict resolution. And searching for a solution, to find a place of understanding and strive to work things out that reflect a respect for all the individuals involved in those encounters. Those 4 factors are the things that we focus on with these young people to get them to understand, what have I done? How can I get out of it? How can I move forward with my life? And another big key thing is, are they willing to change? Because if they're not willing to change, then it's for naught. But once they can understand that I am willing to change, I understand the things that I've done, and I'm going to do these things to make that change and that commitment, not only to themselves, but to their community, to their school, and to be a better person, period. So those 4 things have really been our staple in trying to change the lives of these young people. And to flip to the other side of, let's just take one entity of them trying to commit theft. Like, they may go into a store and steal some things. There are 6 things that we focus on with these young people to help them understand what they're really doing, what they're really saying about themselves and putting themselves in the situation. And those 6 things are entitlement, peer influence, thrill-seeking, a lack of having, and define authority. And some of them just don't care. That's another one. They just don't care. So those 6 things are the things we focus on when we have a theft situation, because these young people are peer influence. We can't underestimate peer influence, of how much factor that is in a young person's life. And like I said, I can only speak from working with young people, because that is our focal point. because we are firm believers that if we can change the lives of our youth, then we change the lives of our community, because eventually these youthful individuals will be adults, and they can carry that into adulthood and bring that back to our community to be upstanding young men and women, to be factors in our community.
Absolutely. Do you have do you have good involvement in your programs from the parents of your clients?
Yes, we require our parents to attend our sessions as well. They're not joint sessions; they are separate parent sessions. So within those sessions, we address things to help the parents to understand how to deal with their son or daughter with the issue that they've had. So we go through things, such as stress management, how to communicate with your child, you know, how to listen to your children, because oftentimes parents, no one has a perfect book on parenting. And we stress that, because we're parents as well. So we want them to understand that we understand about what it means to parent. And there is no perfect book on parenting. We all make mistakes. But those parents, we also tell them they have to be able to accept that they're not perfect, and they're willing to correct themselves. Because oftentimes, as parents, we can get caught up in thinking that, hey, yeah, I already did that. I was that age before. And we have to take the time to say, hey, let me listen to my children, and let me be able to, and willing to change and make a difference, in my life for the betterment of my child.
Absolutely.
So yes, absolutely. We address that with the parents as well. And it has been quite effective, I can say, for the past 10 years.
Yeah, that's awesome. And a lot of our programs, particularly the teenage juvenile justice programs, a lot of our clients, they think they come into the class assuming that we're some officer of the court. They think we're police officers. They think we might be a probation officer, or in some capacity work for the courts. And a lot of times when they become non-compliant, we have to pull a side session with them to kind of go over the guidelines and make sure they're being compliant. A lot of times they'll ask, please don't violate me, and so, sometimes we allow them to think that we are probation officers.
Absolutely, yep, you're right.
Or police officers, because the reports that we have to fill out, as you know, we still report to the courts about the child's conduct, about their progression in the class, and if they're getting the cognitive skills and completing the programs and being compliant. So yeah, we've had some funny moments with that for sure. This interview could turn out to be just singing to the choir, but I just wanted to have you on the show to kind of let our listeners know, and some of my personal colleagues know, because I'm always complaining that there's not enough inner city father figures involved in our programs. Now, I don't know if I'm sure your clients are probably from the inner city as well as the suburbs, but do you see a lack of participation with father figures in your programs? Or do you see a shortage of male role models actually working in the field that we work in?
Absolutely. I can speak to that. One of the factors that has seemed to be consistent, unfortunately, is many of the kids do not know their fathers, or their fathers are not involved, or their fathers are part-time, which is unfortunate. And this affects how the young person navigates through life. A lot of them, they don't wake up and say, hey, I'm just going to be angry. There's a factor there that makes them lash out. Something is there, and what we call, it's like unraveling a ball. It's layers to these young people. And quite frankly, I had a father show up. We get fathers to show up every once in a while. We may have, the majority of our parents are women.
That's correct.
Mothers. So we have fathers show up every once in a while. But one time I had a father show up, and it this particular session, it was all young men. I think I had like 18 young men in there. And a father showed up, and he was wearing his pants were hanging down. And we're trying to set a standard for these young men to be upstanding young men. And I thought I would never have to do this, but I pulled the gentleman to the side as a grown man. I said to him, I asked him to pull his pants up.
Yeah.
I said, we have a standard here for these young men, and we, as an adult, I mean no disrespect to you, but I need you to look the part of an upstanding man for these young men. And he took it in stride. He's like, I'm sorry, I apologize, I do understand, but I thought I would never have to tell another grown man to pull his pants up for the sake of us trying to impact our younger men sitting in the room who they feel that is the standard and the norm. And if we don't create standards and norms that are different for our young men, then how will they know? Again, if we go back to the father factors, not being involved in our community, or going back to trying to be the youth as opposed to the youth looking up to us, and we're pulling our pants now down as grown men when we knew the younger generation is doing that, but why are we doing that as grown men? So that just doesn't bode well for our young men trying to figure out who they are and how they can be an impact to our community. So that's just one instance, that to speak to what you're talking about with, the lack of fathers and the lack of men. And I always ask that question. I say, how many of you know your fathers? You'll get the hands or lack thereof, and how many of your fathers are involved in your life, And some fathers are involved in their kids' life, and they may be abusive to these young kids. I've seen signs of that, in various workshops. I've seen signs of that. I can't confirm it, but you can kind of see how the child reacts and how the parent kind of reacts to them. You kind of like, yeah, that's kind of a dicey situation.
Oh, yeah.
So, we do what we can to try to help each family. And, but, yeah, you're exactly right. We have more fatherly involvement. It would definitely be a factor of help in our community. Definitely.
Yes, that reminds me of every year, a couple times a year, during our after-school literacy sessions, we will invite the fathers or the father figure to come and mentor and tutor with Mr. Charles, which is myself, and to hear some of the mothers' response to that. It was, I guess they were being truthful, but it was horrible. It was, I'm not telling that MF nothing. He hasn't been doing anything for his child. And some of them say, just horrible words I'm not going to say on this video about these brothers, about these men, these males. And so a lot of times when we invite the father figures to come and tutor with Mr. Charles, we normally get grandfathers and great uncles. I've not had one biological father. I've not had one stepdad in these sessions. So I'm glad you shared what you shared. And this is the reason why I'm speaking about this subject right here, because we have a lot of males who listen to our programs, and they see me say it on Facebook. I say it right in people's faces. It's ridiculous. I love to do what we do. It's a labor of love, but yet and still, we need more black men, inner city men of all ethnicities. If your child is in public school, we really need to step up and find ourselves at these after-school literacy programs and check by the school. You can just start easy with one time a month. Just go up to the school, get the permission from the mom if you don't have it. Visit your child's school. Visit them. Like you said a minute ago about some fathers are not involved in these young males' lives. That's very important, just to have your dad come to your school one day. I can just tell that would really boost a boy's self-esteem and morale.
Hmm. Definitely. And it's an easy thing to do, but a lot of men don't. They don't do it. They're not going to the schools to visit their kids and to see what's going on. And the mother is the one doing the heavy lifting. And I think that's a disrespect, to our women and to our mothers. For the men not to step up and do what they need to do to take care of their kids. Now, I'm not bashing all men because I know some great fathers. I am one myself.
Absolutely.
So I want to make sure that that's not being misconstrued or misunderstood in any type of way. But I'm just stating the facts as I see them and how the young people are articulating to me and what I've seen in our sessions with these fathers. And sometimes the fathers act like, some that do attend, some of them are kind of feeble in their speech. And what I mean by that, they're not well grounded in how to articulate themselves for their kids. So I offer that aid there to help. Not saying that I'm perfect, but I'll try to help these men to understand to be a more positive factor in their children's lives. So definitely.
Yes, and one reason why I've said it on videos before, one of the main reasons we go to these schools and do in-session as well as after-school sessions, in-school and after-school sessions, is to take some of the weight off of these teachers in public schools. Most of them who teach inner city young kids are really, really stressed out. They have to teach as well as parent, and the highest percentage of teachers are women teachers. And when they have boys in their class who lack certain, I'm just going to say, who lack responsibility and accountability, it shows, and it's a really heavy weight on a lot of these teachers. So when we facilitate in-school and after-school programs, as we said in our first crime prevention video, is we get the school faculty and the household on the same page. That way, the child can't weasel his or her way out of their academic responsibilities and their conduct in school and at home. So I was happy to hear that you say you all do the same thing in your intervention and in your diversion programs.
Absolutely.
We're going to bring this to a close. We hope that something was said to encourage our listeners, whether you be a parent, whether you be a officer of the court, probation officer, police officer, as we say, parent, mom, dad, looking for programs to get your child into. We are Culture Through Expressions. You can look at our website, culturethroughexpressions.org. We're based in Indianapolis. We have with us today Daryl Rice. Please repeat some information how people can get in touch with you in the Charlotte area.
Okay. All right. We are Urban Thoughts. We are located in Charlotte, North Carolina. You can reach out to us at urbanthoughts.com. We are there. You can shoot myself an email if you like. That is DERice418@gmail.com. And I'll be willing to talk to you and help you in any type of way that I can. I appreciate being invited on the show. I hope that I said something that could help someone out there be a better person and be a better person not only to themselves but to our community.